Thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, my partner in crime. Really, the best way to describe this person's my everything. It's at Eric Dalala.
Phil, great to be with you this morning.
Thank you for being here in the studio.
I wouldn't dream of missing it.
I know you wouldn't. Eric, what's been going on? I mean, it's since the Sean Payton news, it's kind of been quiet around here.
Quiet, yeah. There's been some reports of some assistant coaches, but nothing official quite yet.
Yeah.
You've had your ear to the ground a little bit.
I've been snooping around.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe every once in a while you bump into someone in the hallway.
Yep.
You're like, whoa, what are you doing here?
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah, what? Who's this?
Luckily, they're all wearing name tags.
Yeah. And I go back to my desk and I look them up on Wikipedia.
Yep. You figure things out.
And then I get to the bottom of it. You know?
That's right.
Yeah. But, been a little bit quiet around here. We saw Sean Payton make the rounds at the Super Bowl in Media Row there. A lot of different interviews. Eric, he said something that was interesting to me. He said, you want to be slow to hire, fast to fire. That was one of his quotes last week. Just something that he's learned from his time in New Orleans with regard to his staff.
Wow, I didn't see the fast to fire part.
Yeah, fast to fire. That's sort of his motto. Motto?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? He is certainly taking his time here with the hiring of staff.
Well, it doesn't seem like there's too much competition. It seems like some of these teams are looking at different candidates. So for the moment, I would take your time and make sure you're making the right choice.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that finding the right pieces here will be important for this Broncos staff. And one of the benefits to hiring a veteran like Sean Payton is that he knows a lot of people around the league.
Oh, absolutely.
No shortage of names to be discussed here. And that's sort of what we'll get into on this episode of the Neutral Zone, talking about the defensive coordinator position in particular, just how important that role is for the Broncos. There's sort of been this thought that, hey, Sean Payton's going to come in, fix this offense, work with Russ, and the Broncos defense is just good, no problems, you know. But finding the right coordinator and the right scheme is going to be crucial for this team.
Of course, yeah. You get the wrong guy in here to call defensive plays, you could easily see a big-time drop-off defensively. You're going to have to replace a lot of talent, fill some holes on the defensive side of the ball. So the person leading that side is going to be crucial.
I just think from like a national perspective, the idea is Sean's going to do this, and the defense, it's just a given that it's going to be good. But maybe that's not necessarily the case, and we'll get into that. We'll talk about some of the names that have been reported as defensive candidates for defensive coordinator candidates, and we'll get into that a little bit. Before we continue on, though, Eric, we should mention that pulled some strings, and we got our guy back.
That's right. We got Ben Swanson. Failed his physical.
Yeah.
This physical there, Norris. What happened?
Strings.
What happened?
High blood pressure. What can I say?
They wanted a podcast supervisor who was strong like bull.
You have high blood pressure, Swanson?
Yeah. That's what did it.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit high blood pressure.
Dealing with you definitely raises
So what'd your heart rate get up to, 45?
It's getting higher now.
When they told you were coming back, what was your reaction?
Oh, God, please no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Despite failing the physical, they did not just cancel the trade, which
That's
was
what I'm saying.
really nice. They still said, well, whatever, you just kind of have him back if you want him.
So they weren't upset, you don't think?
It was almost like kind of one of those NBA, like a buyout, and then you sign him back.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Or
like, we just don't. Just
kind
kind
of like the Gary Payton situation. The Warriors were like,
clear some cap space here.
Yeah. Got it. So you're back now then, huh?
Back.
Did
Forever.
it hurt your feelings a little bit that we just tossed you into the pile for the trade and then, like we didn't want you anymore?
No, I'm used to it. I'm used to how you treat me.
That's a compliment, I think, that you are such a desirable asset or thought to be that New Orleans would want you.
Yeah.
But then they didn't want him.
Well, the photos we send, his biceps were a little bit
The
Photoshop.
Edited?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you have high blood pressure, and then now you're back in this cooker.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Well,
not
good
a
luck.
good recipe.
Next time you might, when you're missing, it just might be because you're dead.
Yeah.
That was dark.
Yeah, well, I just keep it real.
He's gonna be okay over there. He's got his little flannel to
I
keep
was
him
going to
warm.
say, you got the new, is that a new flannel? That's a
the thing,
new
I
color or
can't
no?
really wear it in New
Pick
Orleans.
that up
Too
in New
warm.
Orleans.
Too warm. Too humid.
Yeah.
If you're watching.
Linen down there. Yeah.
Linen, yeah. More breathable. If you're watching on the Broncos official YouTube page, when the shot cuts to Swanson, you might also notice something different too.
He grew a beard.
New backdrop.
Oh, wow.
New backdrop. No more free pub around here.
What about on your mic stand?
No, you can't
Don't
see
look
that.
at
It's just orange. Yeah.
Don't look at that.
Yeah. Don't look at but it looks nice, Swanson. Right behind you. A lot's changed.
You know, I did a lot of work. A lot of painting went on this little whatever.
Yeah. You
wrap?
painted that?
Maybe a wrap?
Yeah, I painted it. Yeah.
You're like, if I'm coming back, I got to make some changes.
Yeah.
I like that. Alessandro Rhymes commented on YouTube and said,
Oh, we're just
That was a
jumping.
great
well,
segue.
I'm just going into it because
Okay.
Alessandro's probably happy because commented, where the F is Swanson?
Swanson Hive, let's go.
And then Killer 35 Durant said traded to New Orleans. Like it was fact. Like, hey,
It was fact.
yeah.
It just didn't work.
Didn't work.
I'm
out.
just saying the way Killer 35 Durant was just like, he was traded. You missed that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Just
he
like the
wasn't
NBA
like, I know
trade
we
deadline.
miss him, or like, I know what happened. Why did they do this? It was just traded to New Orleans.
It's a business.
Yeah. I won't read any other comments.
No, you might as well keep
I
going.
don't- Well, no, I
You know,
think that we should.
I
So
think
you
I
don't
think
want
you
to
should,
set
I
it up?
think no, I think you should just go. Just do what you want to do.
Wow. Did that hurt your feelings?
I like routine around here.
Yeah. So let's get back to the
No,
routine.
no, it's too late.
Please.
It's too late.
Because it might be confusing.
Too late.
Why, Eric, please tell everybody why we would read comments from a YouTube page. That was sort of a taste. That was a little appetizer. We'll get to the main meal in just a little bit.
Perfect. I'll shout out Liz Gerald.
No. That's at the end of the show, Eric.
Well, we're
You
doing
know
the
better
order
than
all
that.
differently.
You
I'm
know
kind of
better than
confused.
that.
Phil, we're talking about YouTube because this is an interactive podcast.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
There
is.
are ways to get involved with the show. One of them, Phil, you can leave an email at neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. We'll read it right here on the air. I think we got one coming
got
down. I would think it'd be later, but you could just start reading it at any point, really.
I think we'll do that one later.
You can leave a voicemail at 707-NEUTRAL. You could tweet at us directly on Twitter. You got to have a blue check mark, I think, but you can still do
Will
it.
we still have those or no?
$8.
You can send us a 280-character message up to 20 times a day on Twitter. At Eric Delala with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH, 1L in Phil. Non-traditional
1L.
spellings.
Yeah, for Phil.
Or, Phil, you could
Say it.
comment on the YouTube.
Yeah, you could. That's one of my favorite ways.
Yeah,
You got to be a real fan to watch on YouTube. That's what I sort of
I
think.
think so.
Yeah, because you're not in your car. It's not like you're working
Well-
out. You're not like doing a lot of.
You don't watch YouTube in your car.
You're locked in.
Could be.
You could be.
Maybe you're not
nice.
driving.
Yeah, maybe you are driving.
Just driving and watching YouTube
Commenting at the
Yeah.
same time.
and commenting.
Yeah.
Wow, that
LOL, Swanson's back.
watch out. Yeah, when we revealed you probably swerved off the road a little bit. Like,
If you're a
Amazing.
good driver, it's fine.
yeah, what if you're not a good driver?
I mean, what type of car would like a bad driver drive?
Not a Bronco.
No.
That's one of the finest
Ford
automobiles
Broncos,
around.
only good drivers allowed.
Yeah, only the good drivers do that one. Matt, just Matt, must have been an early adopter of YouTube to get just Matt. I love this podcast. Eric, spelled AIRICK, on purpose to be funny, I think, because then and Phil, FHYL, Phil,
Nice.
provide great Broncos information. I do like it. Not a joke. Helping a dumb Australian learn the football know-how. You're welcome.
Always good when you have to clarify that you're not joking when you say you like the
not joking.
podcast.
I'm not joking. I
I
this
like Ben
podcast.
Swanson. Not joking.
I'm not sure about this one. Chris Carruthers says, "Hey Phil, it's just like the Seinfeld episode."
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Do you remember? I mean, I'm sure you caught up, Swanson, on all the.
I did listen. I don't.
I'm trying to remember.
Did you like play it in this like in the Saints facility? You had like an earbud in. They're trying to talk to you, and you're like, "Shh, I'm listening to the neutral zone."
They're doing shout-outs. I think they might mention me.
Brim Hall Barbell Club, the Barbell Club, which we belong to.
We found it.
Yeah,
we found it at
one.
Denver
Yeah,
Barbell Club, actually.
I got dumber listening to you two talk about hunting.
Talking about what?
Hunting. Because we talked about hunting.
That was 2 episodes ago, right?
With Derek Wolf. Yeah. Because we didn't really understand the bow and arrow part of it. Swanson, of course, with his flannel, is an avid hunter. And you could sort of explain things. We didn't have him, so we didn't know.
That would be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we couldn't get into it too much, huh? Okay.
You should see he runs around in kind of like a nice little leather outfit.
Really?
Hunting. Yeah. You ever seen like Peter Pan? That's kind of what Swanson does.
Flies?
He believes.
And then the last one here is from Taylor Overby. Taylor Overby. These two are a vibe, just buddies chilling, talking Broncos. I love it. Randomly ran into Phil a few years ago at the bar in the alley in Cincinnati.
O'Malley's.
Broncos Bengals
in the
game.
alley.
He's a great guy.
Nice.
That was nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, O'Malley's in the alley.
You said Taylor Overby?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Your grades in school were under B.
That was a stretch.
That was good.
That was a stretch. Forced. It was a little bit forced and inaccurate. Yeah. So thank you very much, though.
Like, not true.
Yeah, O'Malley's in the alley. That's a great bar in Cincinnati.
That's true. I've never been there.
You haven't?
No.
Wow.
I was at a
That's
Cats
very
game,
nice.
if you recall.
Oh.
Cats guy.
Cats. Normally we do shout outs at the end, but you're bringing up Cats, huh?
I wasn't shouting out the Cats. I was just mentioning where I was.
Oh. Cats football.
Yeah.
What about Cats basketball? How's that
basketball?
doing?
B1G championship game.
Yeah. What happened in that one?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was good for a little bit.
And then what about Cats hoops? Do they still?
I'll save that for the end.
Oh, got it. Yeah, you got a whole speech.
That's
prepared?
for the final 10 to 15 minutes.
Got it.
Leave the people one more.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for all the comments there on YouTube. Let us know what you think about our new backdrop here that Swanson painted. It's really nice. Swanson, you got to talk for it to pop.
You got to stop talking.
Then we can see the backdrop. There we go. See? Very nice.
See, when Eric starts talking, you got to stop talking. The camera cuts to you.
Okay, my blood pressure machine's starting to beep.
It's kind of like Stanley's on The Office. Yeah. I think it's you, Michael.
It's you, Phil.
All right, let's get into really our only topic for this episode, talking about the defensive coordinator position there, Eric. Sean Payton going through the process here of hiring his staff, not in any rush, said that's something that he's learned from his time with the Saints. Don't need to rush this hire. And I'm wondering, Eric, how important is it that the Broncos, one, get the right fit there at the defensive coordinator spot, but also that there's some continuation from the previous defensive systems that the Broncos have had so much success with?
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with the kind of the second question there, which is I'm okay if you stray from what you've done the last couple of years. Obviously, this Vic Fangio scheme is kind of sweeping through the league. It helps bring scoring offenses down. You know, it's been tougher to hit these big plays, I think, for teams across the league. If you were to go with a guy like Sean Desai, who we'll talk a little bit about and is one of the options, he would probably continue some semblance of that. But listen, the other candidates that you hear about, they don't necessarily run that system, but they still run aggressive attacking defenses. And, you know, for as good as the Broncos were at times under Vic Fangio defensively, they still had late game struggles. They struggled to stop the run at times in the 4-minute. I think with Ejiro Evero, they were better in that area, but also, you know, they weren't without their difficulties too. And so any defensive system is going to have its shortcomings. It's going to have its positives. What I would do, Phil, is I would almost decide first, what do you want to be as an offense? And then what is the best defensive system that complements what you want to do offensively? So if you want to, if you're going to grind it out, offensively, and you're going to hold the ball for long periods of time, maybe you build, a defense that looks a certain way. If you're going to be an offense that's going to throw it a ton and try to put up 40 every game, maybe you have to build a little bit different of a defensive scheme. And so I would hope that it's kind of, even though we view offense and defense separately, I would hope that there's an interconnectedness with what Sean Payton is doing in terms of picking a scheme for this Broncos defense. And like you said at the very beginning, it is critical for them to get the right guy because, listen, I don't think you need to be fifth in defense or first in defense, but you certainly need to be in the top half of the league in order to find success. And so you can't become a team that scores 30 points a game and gives up 28. I mean, that's a tough way to live. And so you still need to have some sort of, stoutness defensively.
What kind of scheme do you think would best fit the higher scoring offense?
Well, I just think if you're in these shootouts, you probably need someone, in my mind, I would guess, that is maybe focused on the secondary, the pass rush, be able to get after quarterbacks that are that are chasing this lead. If you're in these grinded out games, maybe you do need to focus a little bit more kind of on the interior of the defense, make sure that you're able to stop the run, challenge, these teams and kind of these tight slug fests. I do think from again, I'm not an expert. I'm not going to be chosen, I don't think, to be the defensive coordinator, Phil, but I think that
an assistant quality control,
it's
maybe
possible. I just think that as like Rex Ryan, for example, another candidate, you think of him having a very attacking defense. I think you can make that work no matter what your offense is, but I would hope there's at least some sort of, you hear about playing complementary football. And if the offense is going to go out there and, run hurry up all the time, you're putting a lot of strain on your defense. So what is the plan to make sure that you're still able to find success? If you're going to go out there and you're going to run a ball control offense, play action, you're going to try to just work the ball down the field slowly, your defense gets a little bit more rest. Maybe you don't have to worry about that as much, but I think having somebody that can tailor the defense to help fit what you're doing offensively would be a plus.
Because it might not happen immediately, but I would imagine that Sean Payton, he's going to want to score in the 30s. I mean, his offenses there in New Orleans, they've been top 5 in scoring a bunch of, I think it was 9 out of 15 years that he was there in New Orleans, that his offenses were top 5 in scoring. So it might not happen this year, but eventually I think that in order to have success too in the NFL, it's really hard to win some of these grinded out games. We've seen Tennessee try to play that way with a really talented roster and still fall short. So
yeah,
I do think that you need to be able to score some points, put up those points. And I agree. An aggressive defense, that's what we've seen paired with Sean Payton in New Orleans. You think about pass rushers, sort of feel like Randy Gregory fits one of those molds that like a Cam Jordan maybe. But yeah, the Broncos are going to want to get after the passer and have a strong secondary. And even George Payton's talked about that a lot too. So let's talk about some of the candidates here. Eric, you brought up Rex Ryan. There was a report from Mike Garafolo from the Leagues Network talking about him emerging as a top candidate here. What would you think of the Broncos bringing in a guy like Rexy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's had a lot of success in this league. Comes from a great football family. A lot of the lineage there is really good on the defensive side of the ball. He has head coaching experience. He's not afraid, I think, of a challenge. People talk about, why would you want to go to a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert? Well, when Rex Ryan was with the Jets, they didn't have any fear going into Foxborough and playing with the Patriots, playing against Tom Brady. And so I kind of like that attitude, that mentality defensively of, hey, we're not afraid of anybody. We're going to come after you. You got to play us. I like when teams have that sort of attitude. We talk a lot, Phil, about, hey, are the Broncos dictating the terms of this game or is the opponent dictating it? I think when you have Sean Payton on offense, you're dictating what happens when the offense and the opposing defense is on the field. If you had Rex Ryan, I think you're going to dictate or even if you play a team like the Chiefs that's really good offensively, at least you're evenly matched, I think, from a schematic standpoint. You're going to be attacking. So those things all stand out to me. I guess my questions about Rex Ryan would be, one, he's been out of the game for a long time. And so, from a coaching philosophy or schematic standpoint, the game has definitely changed since he's worked in it. And obviously he's an analyst. He's involved a lot. He's following these trends, I would assume. But it's been a long time since he's called plays at the NFL level. And so, does this defensive philosophy, this scheme, does it still work? What sort of tweaks do you have to make now to adjust for some of the changes offenses have made, for some of the rule changes? And so that would be my question with Rex. It's just, I think it's been 6 years. How do you adapt to getting back in the game?
Yeah, he last coached with the Bills there in 2016. Before that, obviously, with the Jets, and then before that with the Ravens. So he was last the defensive coordinator in 2008. So it's been a while since he's filled that position specifically. So, yeah, I do think that there's some questions there, but those were some great defenses, that he ran. So you would think that he's kept up on the game and he'd be able to make the necessary adjustments. And, certainly you talk about like teams sort of taking on the personalities of their coaches. This team would have a drastically different feel if they took on the personality of one, Sean Payton, and then add in a Rex Ryan. The feel of this Broncos team would be drastically different. And obviously, Sean Payton has employed Rob Ryan in the past there in New Orleans, so now he could be with his brother.
Yeah.
It would make our jobs a little more entertaining, to say the least.
Yes, I think pressers would be enjoyable.
Yes.
Every week. And
it would just be sort of, a couple of TV guys here with Sean Payton and then Rex Ryan. I mean, we would, never know what to expect.
Yeah. And I think that, when Rex was in New York, there are times when they just had to play that kind of grinded out style of football. Yeah. So they were able to win that way. So if you can pair a good attacking defense with an offense that we hope improves, I think you don't need to lose that mentality of being attacking just because you score points. I just think that, like I was saying earlier, this needs to be an awareness of how those things work together. And, there's a chance, Phil, that this defense might give up more points this year, but might be a comparable unit. I think we talked a lot about, the Broncos scoring defense has been really good the last few years. Well, in part, that's because teams have played conservatively because they don't need to score all that many points against the Broncos to win. There are times when, a team would get to 17 points and it'd be like, let's shut it down and let's just not
get conservative.
Let's not make a game-changing error here. Whereas, hey, you're scoring points. Maybe the defense makes a few plays here and there. Maybe they do give up, 24, 25 points a game, but they're still able to they're still able to get a takeaway or get a big fourth down stop or get a big red zone stop. Those are the things that are more important to me, at least, than kind of the pure points per game numbers. Can you make those game-changing plays? I would argue when Vic was here, unfortunately, there were a lot of times when that just didn't happen. And there were times last year under Evero where it happened, but it's not always going to happen, of course. But I think it can happen in any defensive system. I don't think that you necessarily have to play this style.
What about with the roster that the Broncos have? Would it take time to adjust to a new system?
Well, I mean, you're going to have a different-looking defense no matter what you play. I mean, Draymond Jones and Deshaun Williams are not under contract, so you need two defensive linemen to join DJ Jones, unless you want to move Mike Purcell back in there. You need a starting inside linebacker, whether that's bringing back Alex Singleton or somebody else. Your corners could stay the same if you wanted to, with in Pat Surtain and Damari Mathis. You could bring back Ronald Darby and have some talent. You're going to need to find a safety there because Kareem Jackson's a free agent. So, edge rusher, we expect them to bring in some talent there, some competition. So, I feel half this defense could be different anyway. And so, listen, Pat Surtain's going to be good in any defense. I think Randy Gregory, if healthy, is going to be good in any defense. Obviously, there's defenses that are going to fit Josie Jewell a little bit better, I think, but that's part of this, this process of figuring out what do you want to run, who needs to be in it. But I'm not concerned with saying like, oh, we have to run the same defense so that there's continuity. No, there's going to be a bunch of new guys on this defense regardless. So that to me is not as big of a factor.
That's interesting just because the defense has been so good. You would think, like, let's try to keep these guys together. Let's try to keep the same system. Let's try and just keep this thing going. But it doesn't seem like that's necessarily a requirement here moving forward. They really could go in any direction they want to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, players get older. Some guys like a Draymond Jones is going to demand probably a hefty contract. You've got to make decisions on who you want to keep, and so you're always going to churn through guys. It's the nature of the business. You want to keep those core guys in place, of course. A Pat Surtain, a Justin Simmons. Hopefully a Randy Gregory if he can stay healthy. But yeah, I don't have any. It's not like the Cowboys run the Vic Fangio style of defense down there under Dan Quinn. And Randy Gregory had a lot of success down there. So
yeah,
I think good players can thrive in different schemes.
One more thing just before we move on to some of the other candidates here. What do you think about not just the style of offense the Broncos want to play, but also with regard to the division? Do you have to sort of think about, hey, we got to figure out what's the best way to slow down a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert? What kind of defense do we think will fit that best?
Yeah, I think it's all got to be part of the equation, and I trust Sean Payton, who's been in this league for a long time, who's played, he's played Tom Brady really well, when they were in New Orleans. They've had success. It's mostly been in the regular season, unfortunately, but had a lot of success. They're playing against some really good quarterbacks. I trust that Sean Payton's able to look and say, okay, well, what would bother me if I were an offensive coordinator with Patrick Mahomes and running this stuff? Or what would bother me if I was in L.A. helping Justin Herbert? And so, yeah, I do think you consider that. It can't be the end-all, be-all just to beat one team. But, I mean, you've got to get through this division really to have a chance to do something special. So, yeah, it's got to be a consideration.
I do think you have to build that defensive roster around thinking, hey, we got to face Mahomes twice a year. And to me, that means being able to get pressure on him without necessarily blitzing and also having a strong secondary. It seems like the Broncos have a pretty good grasp on the secondary part of it. The pass rusher part of it, I think that needs to be a major focus moving forward here with the defense. But another name that popped up late on Wednesday, Eric, a name we're very familiar with around here, former Broncos head coach Vance Joseph.
Yeah, kind of interesting, Phil. There's a lot of chatter about, is Vic Fangio going to come back? Former head coach. Would it be weird for him to come back as a defensive coordinator? Now you've got Vance Joseph kind of being mentioned, who of course also a head coach here in Denver. Been a little bit longer, Phil. His last year was 2018, so what that would be 4 years kind of since he left. It would be an interesting move. I mean, I think fans might look at it and say, okay, well, the Broncos didn't have a lot of success, so why would you do that? But the Cardinals have been good under Vance defensively. I think he has a real way of connecting with players. You watch the Hard Knocks episode, and he got the best out of his guys even late in the year. Going to have a strong front seven, I think, under Vance Joseph. And then, obviously, I think still has an understanding of kind of that back-end play and what you need there. And, Phil, he would – not many guys, right? I think only Justin, Josie on this defensive side of the football, but has a connection with a couple of players here. So could be something that's appealing to the Broncos. Certainly a guy with more experience now than he did when he came to Denver, and I think you'd see the benefits of some of that.
Yeah, I think that the important factor here is not to evaluate him as the Broncos head coach here. Yeah. Just because I think some of the things that Vance struggled with was the overarching demands of the head coaching position. That was just like a little too much versus being just a defensive coordinator. There's still a lot on a defensive coordinator's plate, but I think that he would do much better in that situation where he's coaching more, hands-on more, just worrying about one side of the ball, and then really following Sean Payton's guidance. I think that he could really thrive in that situation. And he was a young coach when he came here as the head coach. So I agree with you. The experience factor, just being able to spend that time in Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury there, I think that he's probably grown a lot since he was here with the Broncos. And I think that it would be a okay pick. What do you think about him coming back? You think it would be weird?
No, I don't think. I mean, the turnover has been extreme. It's new ownership in place, new president in place. You know, just thinking of like who's
whole
around.
organization.
Us three might be the only three people that are still here. I mean, it's
True.
a little bit of an exaggeration. Like a lot of the support staff obviously is the same, but you have a different general manager. Obviously, Sean Payton would be the head coach, and you know it's rare I think that it happens this quickly, but people do make multiple stops in multiple places. It's a little bit rare to be the head coach and then do it, I think. But
Kind of like the Josh Johnson of defensive coordinator. That sort of a situation, huh? Second stop here, maybe a few years down the road, maybe come back.
Yeah.
You know. You think it was awkward for him there with the 49ers?
I don't think so. But he wasn't the head coach of the 49ers.
That's true. But he was a quarterback there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes I know what you're saying.
Yeah. That he goes away for a little bit, comes back.
Yeah.
Goes away for a little bit, comes back. He's a quarterback.
Yeah.
Vance Joseph is a coach.
Yes. That's where
the
you
difference.
kind of lost me a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. That Vance Joseph is a coach.
I know that.
Oh, you know that.
Do you know that?
You
Do
know
you
it.
know?
Okay, got it. Sorry. I thought that's where you got lost.
I also think, you know, when you evaluate Vance here in Denver, you've got to remember that the quarterback situation was not great. Like,
But what about just the defense, though?
no, but I'm saying, like, if fans are like, oh, we were bad when Vance Joseph was here, there were a lot of issues. And there
Yes.
were still issues last year. You know, I think it's like Sean Payton said, when you have a bad record, there's dirt on a lot of people's hands. And so it was not all a Vance problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think from a defensive standpoint, they're obviously wasn't a top defense in the league. Maybe Swanson can
Yeah,
look
you
up
want to
where
pull
they
up some numbers there,
where they
Swanson?
ranked this year. But you know, they certainly played Denver well early in that game.
Oh, you mean the Cardinals' defense?
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. I'd also be interested. I'm trying to remember how well the Broncos defenses did those 2 years. Obviously, they had a lot of talent.
You want yardage points?
Sure.
Any of it? Okay.
Just look it up, baby.
In the last 4 years in Arizona, the defense has ranked in yardage last, and then 13th in the second season, 11th, and then 21st last year. Scoring defense, 28th, 12th, 11th, 31st.
Okay, turn this microphone off.
Cut him off. How about the Broncos
In
teams?
Denver, the first year was pretty good. In 2017, third in total defense, and they were 22nd in scoring defense that year.
22nd.
Yeah, that's a big difference. And then 2018, 22nd in yardage and 13th in scoring defense.
Yeah, so
And those teams had a keep to lead Chris Harris, Von Miller,
They're
Wolfie.
good. Woofy. Yeah, he was hunting
Talent.
quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like Vance. You know, it was an interesting name to see. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I sort of also would just trust Sean Payton to make the best hire here too, because, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, he's got probably a lot of names that he could draw from. So if you're getting an interview, he must think highly of you.
Yeah.
So the last guy we want to talk about, Sean Desai, Eric, most recently up in Seattle, but also was a defensive coordinator for the Bears, an assistant there with the Bears for a while before that. What do you think about that name?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a nice name.
Desai. You like that?
I like that.
Yeah.
You want me to talk about his career now?
No, more about the name if you could.
Okay.
Yeah. What is
Sean,
it that you
I
like?
think Sean's a good name.
He spells it
synergy.
SEAN.
I like that way.
That's a traditional spelling, I would say.
Yeah. So does Sean Payton.
Yeah. Oh, what
Good
if it got
synergy,
too
yeah.
confusing with the
Oh,
names?
Sean,
Somebody's
Sean.
like, Sean, like throwing their heads at Sean, and they're like, who are you talking to? So maybe his name's not good.
No, I think it's still good.
Oh, you think it's still good?
Yeah.
How do you feel about a SHAWN?
Do we know anybody with that name?
I don't think so.
I'm not a huge fan.
Got
I
it.
just want to make sure that
Yeah,
I wasn't
clear that first.
blasting
And
anybody.
then how do you feel about Desai?
I really like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Desai.
Yeah.
It's sort of like sharp. It's like Desai.
Yeah.
Boom.
I think this would be a little bit of kind of like an up and coming choice. You're building for the future.
Your name?
Yeah. what you're hoping for, like a Jiro Evero, I don't think anybody expected him to be as successful as he was in year one, but you were kind of thinking, okay, well, he's got these traits that give him a lot of potential to do well in this league. Desai only has 1 year as a defensive coordinator. Didn't have a lot, great success there in Chicago, but there were a lot of issues there, and they were trying to. I believe they had Fields, right?
Yeah.
That was Fields' first year, but
21, right? Is that when?
2021.
Yeah.
They were about to go through a coaching change. It was a tough year there. Having time in Seattle, I think, is beneficial. Obviously, Pete Carroll, a good defensive mind. And then kind of maybe the appealing thing, if you want to keep things going, is he spent time with Vic Fangio in Chicago before he was there as defensive coordinator. Yeah. And so, has some experience in the Fangio type system. If you wanted to try to run something similar, if you wanted to keep that going, he could be a good choice. But obviously, he doesn't have the experience, the pelts on the wall that a Rex Ryan or even Vance Joseph or a Derek Wolfe has.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, it would just be a totally different vibe,
But we've seen it work. I mean, last year people would have been like, oh, a Jiro Evero, young coach, do you need someone more experienced? It went out and worked really well.
Yeah.
So the benefit to that is maybe a younger coach connects to the players a little bit better. But I think each of these three guys in their own way would be able to command respect in that room and relate well to the guys in the locker room.
One of the things that Evero did, it was a smooth transition from Fangio to him, and he made a couple of tweaks here and there. Certainly saw career years out of a bunch of different guys on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that the guys really took to his coaching. They really respected him as a defensive coordinator there. So whoever comes in here is going to inherit a lot of talent. Will also be able to really put their thumbprint on it too by bringing in guys. So I think that it's a good job to have. I think that if you're a defensive, like I would get why a guy like Rex would leave TV and come back for this job.
Yeah.
So there's a good mix of like, hey, we got some talent here in a Justin Simmons and a Surtain, a Randy Gregory, a Baron Browning. You could really just sort of do a lot of different things with
12 sacks this year.
He could. What if they told Barron, like, hey, we actually think you should go back to inside linebacker? He'd be like, what?
It could happen.
It could happen. Yeah. So I get and then at the same time, like we talked about, there could be a lot of change on this Broncos defense. So you could come in and be like, I want this guy. We need to get after this guy. So like, there's a good mix there that you would really make it your own.
Well, and hey, which guy can do more with less? I would think the Broncos are going to have to go out and spend some money in free agency on their offense. George Payton, this was before Sean Payton was hired, but George Payton said a lot of focus this offseason needs to be on getting this offense better. And so if you're asked to take care of the defense with not as many resources, well, who's going to be able to do that? Does Rex Ryan have a plan for saying, I had these guys who were – they're fine players, but they're not all-stars. Well, but what can you do when you don't have a Ray Lewis?
Exactly, yeah.
And so, the Von Miller theory, really easy to be good when you got Von Miller out there, but what can you do when you don't have Von Miller out there? And so if one of these schemes lends itself better to, sometimes you hear about like a scheme-dependent defense or, something where – you're able to scheme some things up to have success versus just let your players go out there and make plays. If you have those resources in the secondary, maybe that needs to be more of a conversation up front. What can we do schematically to make up
some trickeration
for some of these things? I would also consider, what is a plan for guys like Randy Gregory, Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons to get the most out of them? We've heard Pat Surtain talk about, hey, it's a little easier to get interceptions when you're playing a zone defense because you're off a little bit. You're not, he's so good at press man coverage that he disrupts the route and the ball just doesn't get thrown there. Maybe a defensive coordinator comes in and says, I want to play a little bit more zone so that we can get Pat a chance to get his hands on some more footballs, make some plays for us, give Justin Simmons a chance to make those plays that he did last year. So just I think all those things are things that Sean Payton will consider. And ultimately, it's got to be the right fit, both schematically and I think, Phil, personality-wise with him. Who's going to work well with him when you have a disagreement, which is going to happen. Sean Payton is going to let that person run the defense, I imagine, but there's going to be times where, he's not going to like a call or he's going to want you to do this. Or there's a defensive breakdown. How do you handle those things? All part of the decision.
Yeah, they've got to work well together. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like when like a guy like Jack Del Rio was here, who had a bigger name, had been a head coach in the league.
3 names. Bigger name.
Yeah. Also, good name though.
Jack Del Rio, bigger name.
That's a good name.
Bigger name than like Rex Ryan.
Yeah, but
more letters.
A lot of letters.
Yeah.
Rex Ryan. That's just
10 letters, right?
Del Rio, yeah.
Jack Del Rio.
Del Rio. Yeah.
Del Rio has 6.
Yeah. Rex Ryan. That has 7.
Nice.
Crazy.
This is advanced stats here.
Really makes
this
you
is
think,
you get this
like
on
the names.
NFL GSIS Plus.
Yeah. Fact check, Swanson?
Yeah, that's true.
Rex Ryan?
Next gen stats.
No. Rex Ryan, 7.
Yeah, I use my head. I think that's true.
Got it. What about the Del Rio? Did we get that?
Yeah.
That's confirmed.
Confirmed.
Good.
Fact check, true.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you think the timetable looks like there?
I don't know.
Okay, moving on. Good question.
Yeah.
Good
Do
answer.
you know?
Yeah, I do, but I can't tell.
Okay. I would say by the time the offseason program starts, there will be a staff in place.
Yes, I think I would be. I think before they go to the combine, you'll want.
I don't know about that.
I think you would want that, wouldn't you?
Well, when Sean was talking about all this, he said, I found great coaches at the combine.
Yeah. Maybe not the coordinators, though. Huh?
Who knows?
Anything could happen.
I mean, you just don't know.
True. Well, why do you even need them for the offseason program?
Well, you probably want someone to like teach the defense, to know what defense you're doing. You might not need an offensive coordinator for the offseason program.
Yeah. Just do whatever you want.
That's true.
Run around for a little bit.
Get those hammies right.
Get the hammies right, and you'll be fine.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. And it's all optional, except by the time mandatory minicamp comes around, they'll probably have that.
Yeah, it's optional to be on the football team.
That too. I mean, it's all optional.
Just kidding.
Yeah. So I would imagine by the combine, you'd have some of these names sorted out. If you just a gut feeling, who would you take right now? Just a gut.
I think
gut
Rex
feeling.
still.
Me too. I sort of feel like he's.
It's kind of a big move. It's like, hey, let's go after these guys.
Yeah.
I like
that.
that.
That's bold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very Sean Payton. I think a Rex Ryan, Sean Payton fit that together makes sense in my head.
Yeah.
Well, and I like it.
That's kind of a concern for me.
That it makes sense
to you.
Oh yeah.
Like when something makes sense.
So your concern about Rex Ryan is the fact that I like it.
Yeah. I was on board, and then you were like, "I like this," and I was like, "What am I missing here?"
Yeah.
What am I not? What am I not thinking of?
Smart.
Yeah.
Should we get to our email?
Sure.
Eric, how do you feel about something like that? This is from Andy Maines. Is it possible that everybody's being a little bit hard on Russ? Should some of the blame not go to the offensive line? Seems like most of the season he was running for his life. I'm not saying he's the Russ of old, but I think he would have done a lot better with you would have seen a lot better version of him if he had time to throw the ball. He brings up references to Tom Brady and Patty Mahomes. He just wants to know what you think. Do you need an improved offensive line in order to judge Russ fairly? Andy, thank you very much for that email.
Thanks for the email, Andy. Yeah, I mean, ideally, a great NFL quarterback is able to overcome some shortcomings from offensive line, skill positions, and kind of elevate those guys around him. I think because of the style that Russ plays, holding the ball a little bit longer, running around, the offensive line becomes a little bit more important.
So you're saying Russ isn't great? We got that, Swanson? Did you get it down?
You're crazy.
Did you get it or no? You got it? No.
You want me to answer that question or no?
Yeah.
I think that while you would hope that he's able to elevate those guys, by the end of the season, you were on like third or fourth string players, and it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough in the run game. We've heard a lot that the offensive line needs to be rebuilt, but I think part of it is scheme. Part of it is, hey, what do you want to do? How much time do you have back there? All these things are kind of interconnected, and if you fix one of them, could lead to success kind of all over the place. I do think Russ, got a little more blame than he probably deserves, but listen, that's just what happens when you're the quarterback. You get the praise when you win, and you get the criticism when you lose. And so, it's easy if you watch all the games and you study it to be like, oh, the offensive line wasn't good enough here, or when you lost, Garrett Bowles or whoever it might be, you didn't have as much success. But at the end of the day, nationally, the perception is still going to be that it was Russ, whether that's fair or not.
But he took the most sacks of his career last year.
Yeah.
And I think he was tied for the most in the NFL.
Which, obviously, since it's the most in his career, it shows that, the offensive line play can be better, because otherwise he would always be sacked that many times if it were a Russ issue. But, again, I think you need more from everybody.
Yeah. Hard when Bowles goes. I mean, it just fell apart over the course of the season. Bowles got hurt. Billy Turner was never really himself. That never materialized. Lloyd Cushenberry got hurt. I mean, just all these.
You
pieces
never had
just really
the
fell
line
apart.
you thought you were going to have.
Yeah. So hard to get a good evaluation of what Russ is capable of when he just had no time.
And you keep getting guys that are being switched to schemes that might not fit them because you're changing offensive line coaches every year.
Yeah.
That doesn't help either.
Hard. Yeah, exactly. They went from Mike Munchak, to the zone. That was hard for some guys.
Yeah.
All right, Eric. Time now for your cat speech, if you're ready.
Thank you.
Drum roll, please.
I'd like to shout out the Northwestern Wildcats of Northwestern University.
Cats.
They, in the last week, Phil, they've knocked off number 1 Purdue. They've knocked off number 14 Indiana. They swept Indiana.
They swept Indiana in the last week?
No, this season.
Oh, got it.
They've swept the state of Indiana.
Wow.
I think they've swept the state of Illinois so far.
The Bruins are busy.
The Cats are dancing, baby. So shout out to them.
Wow. What is their, what do they call it? The upper quadrant wins?
Quad 1.
Quad 1.
Yeah. They got so many Quad 1 wins, they don't even know what to do with them.
Yeah. They're just
they're walking around with a bucket of Quad 1 dubs.
Let's say if you just remove the name Northwestern.
Duke.
And
you call them Duke?
You call them Duke?
They'd be top 15 in the country right now.
15.
They're second in their conference.
Why not like top 3 or something?
Well, they don't
They're
deserve
not quite
that.
there?
No.
They're not there yet.
No.
As a Cats guy,
Yep.
not a cat
Yep.
guy, what do they need to do in the tournament for you to be like, this was an amazing year? Anything?
Oh, an amazing year?
Yeah, like this was this was good.
It's already a nice year because
It's already nice.
They were picked to finish 13th in the Big Ten.
Oh, just hard to do out of 10 teams.
Well, there's 14 teams.
Oh,
so,
God, that makes sense.
It does make sense. Big 10, 14. So they were picked 13th. They're going to probably finish in the top 5 here somewhere. That's already a nice year, making it to the tournament.
So it's nice. What's the next? What's the next?
If they were to win one tournament game, I would feel really satisfied. If they made it to the Sweet 16, I would never shut up again.
Will you travel with the Cats around the country this year?
There's a regional being held in Denver. So
there is.
Week of free agency. So I'm not going to be able to cover any of free agency, unfortunately.
Understandable. Yeah. But
there are things that are more important than signing a guard.
Lengths to follow them.
I drive to Ballerina, yeah.
No, but what if it was like, I don't know where all the locations are, but what if it was like
Name a place.
Maine?
The Maine regional.
The Maine regional.
I think Des Moines has a regional.
Vermont? Would you go to Vermont?
No. I'd go to a place that has a basketball arena.
Yeah,
they don't
Vermont.
have those in Vermont.
Yeah, they do.
No.
It's right next to Lake Burlington.
That's not what it's called.
City's Burlington.
Yeah.
Lake Placid. Is that not there?
I think it's
What
like
is
Champlain, isn't it?
Is it Champlain? Maybe it is. Burlington is a city. You get some ice
Did
cream.
you say Schlamp? What did you say?
What did I say? Burlington.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the lake name.
I think it's Lake Champlain.
Yeah, that's true.
Fact check? Yes. All right. Shout out to Vermont.
Nice. Yeah.
Should we rattle
Ice
through a
cream?
couple more? Zoe?
Yeah. Obviously, Nikola Jokic
Yep.
averaging a triple-double this season.
Yep.
Got the Nuggets cruising into the All-Star break here.
Yep.
A nice win over the Mavs. Hopefully, the break gets some guys a chance to get healthy. Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. We'll pick things up on the other side.
Yeah.
What do you think
What would
about
make
that?
you? What would make you happy this year?
Finals appearance.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So no, you don't need a title. That'd be greedy.
Be nice.
I would never shut up again. And I
Well,
already
how is
know
that different?
Yeah.
Shout out Liz Gerald's.
Yeah, of course. This week,
It was
I believe,
Rag
is
Week.
called Random Acts of Kindness Week,
Yeah.
which is really hard for the community department because they like to plan a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But this week, all random.
I prefer intentional acts of kindness personally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's your. Yeah.
I like to be intentional.
Yeah, IAC.
Yeah. Yak.
Yuck.
IAC, is that what you said?
Intentional
IAC.
acts.
Yeah.
Intent. What is it? A random acts of kindness.
Yeah. How do you think you spell kindness?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. IAK.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It's hard to think this late after I've dealt with you for an hour. I'm just
Yeah.
brain doesn't really work. IAK.
Yeah. Ike. Shout out Ike.
Shout out.
to Ike. He never listens.
No.
Too busy playing video games.
And shout out to Swanson.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Coming
Swanson.
back.
Thank you. Thank you for overlooking my health concerns.
Did you sell your house and everything, or what did you do? Your mansion?
Yeah. The good
So now
thing
you gotta
about
buy.
renting for my entire life.
Put it on Airbnb for the week.
You got to buy back now. You're like, hey, can we just
Kick that sublet out.
forget about it? Forget about it.
Yeah, I don't need you anymore.
Swanson's a big landlord guy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
You would just kick someone out, wouldn't you?
How dare you?
You'd be like, things have changed.
I wish Phil was my
Scripts
landlord.
changed.
I would never pay him.
Scripts changed. Yeah. And then you get evicted.
You wish.
What? All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back next week. At least Eric and I will be.
Yep. We'll see.
We're not sure if Swanson will be.
If I survive.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have a couple of hires.
Ooh.
We might have to trade Swanson for one of them.
Every
Might
week, a
have
new
to.
trade. Golly.
Yeah. You're not on solid.
Yeah.
Solid ground.
I'm constantly on the trade block.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back next week. Until then, for Ben Swanson and Eric Dalala, I am Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.